All right, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, so I've been working with a couple of font makers, and I'll leave it to them to announce their fonts, but the style effect from the Acolyte season finale, which is just an updated version of the Pull to the Darkness and Multiphase on Profi OS, is going to be coming to phase 3 of my style library. So let me show you it real quick. There's actually a couple versions, so we'll talk through them, but let me demo it. So this has a specific delay built into it, so when I first ignite, it's going to be a few seconds, I believe 2 seconds, until the actual corruption effect that we saw in the episode happens. But then I'll explain everything else on the tail end. Alright, so what we've got is it's going to be a brand new special ability. Now this uses the multi-phase blade builder, which is the basis for Pull to the Darkness and most of the other dual phase or multi-phase blades we do on the library. But there's the new special ability actually changes how this operates, and there's going to be 2 setups. So we are changing phase, so both of them are called change phase. One of them is going to be the one we just showed, is ignition and change phase corruption. So corruption is a new special ability, and it's actually what allows us to have that very jagged animation. So in the episode, the overtake isn't a clean wipe, which a wipe is where it just kind of overwrites with the new color. The overtake is actually kind of really jagged. It's almost like it's fighting its way up the blade. So the new library update for my early access patrons will let you choose your timing for how long you want that wipe to take, but it's going to be a very jagged thing. And then it has a sound over the top of it. The sound of the hum, though, for the blade doesn't actually change until after the blade is fully taken over. So what we didn't want, what I had to do was create a new way to change that. So if you just use like a regular alt font change, the second you go to change the color, the font's going to swap out. But in the episode, if you actually watch it and listen, the font doesn't change until the end of the overtake. And this is a longer animation. Now this one's shortened. The actual episode was much longer. This is all editable, so the library will let you pick how long you want it to run. But now I'm going to change back. So this is multi-phase, so I can also just use the regular phase controls, special abilities. So I'm just changing back to my blue blade. There are 2 separate hums. They sound a little similar. So I'm back to blue blade. So now, the first one was if you want to use ignite and change phase corruption. That means while your blade's off, you set a special ability. That's a special ignition that will ignite, and then you can set a delay. This one was 2 seconds, and then it will start the overtake process. You can also set just a regular phase change using special abilities 1 through 4 for while your blade is on. This will give you more control over it. So I've set special ability 1 on this demo to also do the same corruption. So the corruption is going to begin when I do it, and what you'll notice is it's very jagged, which is the new animation. So it's kind of fighting its way up. It's not a fixed effect. It's actually going to vary every time you do it. And then it actually holds out the last part of the blade. If you watch the episode, the last little bit of the blade doesn't actually change for a little while, and the timing there is a little different than the rest of the way up. So I wanted to mimic that. And then the sound effect won't change. The hum of this saber won't change until the blade is fully red. And that uses a transition sound with this new capability. So in the library, and I'll do a demo of how to build this in the library, because it's actually, you're going to build a regular multi-phase blade, and you can have as many phases as you want. Obviously this one has 2, but it will then be a special ability to activate that kind of corruption. So I'm going to do the corruption now while the blade is ignited. This is the second version. And then you see it holds out at the end, and that's going to be based on the time you want. So you can make this a lot longer, you can make this shorter. You don't want it to be too short, because then obviously the animation is going to run really fast. But it's all editable in phase 3 of the library. You can select delays, you can select the effect. Now there's also, you don't have to just do this type of blade. It can be any multi-phase blade, and the animation, the corruption, there's actually multiple options there. So this is using just a kind of rotoscope, because that's the basic effect they're using. But there's going to be unstable versions, there's pulse versions, there's all kinds of versions that you can also do. So fully customizable if you like the effect, but you don't necessarily want exactly what was in the episode. But this new corruption special ability is what you're going to be able to choose in the library. And because it's using multi-phase, I can actually just, if I do the same thing again, it'll actually reverse itself. It'll do the same jagged animation. If I use a change phase corruption, But if I just use regular change phase, it'll just go back to normal using whatever you set up for that. So let's do it in reverse, just so you can also watch. So it's going to jaggedly change this time to blue, and it's going to fight itself at the end of the blade, and then once the blue overtakes is when the font actually changes. The font doesn't change during that animation, because that's the big piece of that, is you don't want to change the sound while it's still working its way up. What happens in the episode is after the blade is fully taken over, that's when we get the new hum. So we'll do it, it's going to go in reverse, and then we'll do it forward again. And then once fully taken over, that's when we change out the hum. So this is in phase 3 of the early access library. And again, it's fully customizable. So everything timing-wise, delays, which special ability you use. It will require alt font. It will also require a couple of transition sounds depending on the version you pick. But so there's going to be special ability 1 through 4 is just to do a phase change while the blade is on, and then you can choose 5 through 8 for that actual what happens in the episode. In the episode, when she ignites that blade, there's a short delay. I've made this one 2 seconds for video purposes, but you can have it instantly start to do the change, but it's like a second or two after she ignites that it actually starts. So I wanted to kind of mimic that as well. So I'm going to do it one more time. Like I said, this one's built with a 2-second delay. So it's going to ignite normally in blue, but then after 2 seconds, that red's going to start to corrupt. And then after the corruption is fully complete, that's when we're going to change the hum. And that's when the hum changes, is right after the blade completes fully changing, that's when we change the hum. So it is going to use special abilities to do this, because the other, if you just use a regular like transition on alt change, it's going to swap the font out right away, and that's not really what we wanted to have happen. And like I said, there's a couple of font makers who will have fonts to support this, but I'm not going to steal their thunder. They're going to be doing their own videos. I'm going to give them the code for this based on their specific font, but if you get those fonts and you want to be able to edit and customize and build out your own, and again, you can build it any way you want. It doesn't have to be just rotoscope styles. It doesn't have to be specific colors. It doesn't have to be specific timings. The library will let you customize it top to bottom. So definitely stick around. I'm going to append the demo video of how to build this in the library just so everybody can kind of see. There's a ton of options, and I'll probably expand the options over time. But this is a new ability coming. Phase 3 early access of my OS 7 library. So I know a lot of people have been waiting on it. We've been kind of coordinating back and forth with a few people. So finally got it all ready, and hope you enjoy.